Hi everyone. I'm just gonna wait a few seconds. Oh, hi Memory, um, to let people in. So thank you everyone that's already joined. As we've been sharing today, we will be in conversation with Memory Banda, who is an activist, girls' rights activist, public speaker. She does so much work, and we are so happy that she's, going to be part of this conversation to share a lot of what the work that she's been doing. So just to keep the time, we will get Memory to join, and just to let you know, we'll have 10 minutes at the end for you to ask any questions. So we've got some questions lined up, but at the end, do feel free to ask any questions, and at the end, we'll try and get Memory to answer them. So if I can just get her to join. Just waiting for Memory. Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello. Just a moment.
We have to get everything right.
Yeah.
You're good. Good.
Yeah, I'm good. And I'm looking at the light effect.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I think it has to be with my phone.
All right, as long as you can see me and hear me.
Yeah. Are you clear from your side? Yeah?
Yes, I'm clear.
Oh, okay. Because I'm seeing myself a little bit dim.
No, you look fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Maybe anyone that's watching, is Memory's screen clear? Can you see her all right? Nice.
Oh, okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so great.
Good, good. It's 7 p.m. here, so it's 8 p.m. in Malawi.
It's 8 p.m. here, yeah.
Bedtime.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So that people now relaxing. I'm sure they've had dinner.
Yeah.
So should be perfect time.
Nice. Okay, so
Yeah.
I kind of briefly introduced you and spoke about, how you've been doing a lot of public speaking, that you're a girls' rights activist, and you've done a lot of work through your organization, Foundation for Girls Leadership, which we'll touch on throughout the conversation. But just to begin, I think I should let you have this platform to just introduce yourself properly, say, some of the things that you do and some of the things that you're currently up to.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stella. Basically, this is Memory Banda, guys. I have been doing this work that has to do with girls empowerment from way back. So I started when I was 13 years old, pretty young. So along the course, I think I'll explain more why I started my activism at such a young age. And pretty much I've grown up, I grew up in the rural community. When I tell people that, guys, I grew up in a community and I have ever slept in a house that leaks, So people don't really believe, when I explain about how far I come from. So I really come from a very humble beginning.
Yeah, so you started your activism quite young, and we've been pushing out the story that you spoke about in your TED Talk, which is about, you came into this work, and it's actually quite personal. So, we've been sharing, and people I'm sure have seen it. But in terms of some of the things that you've had to that allowed you to get to this point, what initially made you start this activism? Just your personal story.
Okay, so basically, growing up, being born in a community, in a village, and growing up in a place where we had so little, and that was quite difficult. And for me, it was not just my own situation; it was a lot of us girls growing up in that kind of a situation. And especially when it's attached to my personal story, especially that I grew up in the southern part of Malawi, SheRose district, and my little sister was actually married off at the age of 11. And for me, that was a quite touching story to see such a young person going into marriage. And I was also young. I was actually traumatized as much as she was also traumatized. But for me, it was very personal in a way that, I saw that happening every day to the young girls in the village. And I thought it's normal, And, and growing up in that kind of environment, made me realize that, what, this shouldn't be normal. Girls, we shouldn't be going through this. And that actually made me get attached more to the girls in my community. And I started trying to find out why should we as young girls go through this. I started having a lot of questions at such a young age, as 13. And that actually gave me a bigger motivation for me to stand up for my fellow young girls. And to make it worse, as I was going to secondary school, I actually realized that a lot of my age mates were actually married off, So it was it was quite a traumatizing experience, and I thought I would be next. And I really worked hard so that I am not the next person. And I made sure that I am not the next person. I did not want to be the next statistic of child marriage. And quite to my surprise, my mother was very supportive to me, especially seeing what my younger sister went through. So it actually gave a lot of us in my family a learning point and a point of realization that I think a lot of things have to change in our communities. And that's when I started, speaking out on behalf of young girls. I started speaking out together with my family. Together, my mother was actually on forefront, even though, so my mother was not educated. So when she saw what has happened to my sister, that's when she actually wanted something different for me as well. So it really changed a lot of things within my family, not just in my own life. And that's when my mother really started pushing, let's, get educated, and then later on, I started supporting my younger sister that, not all is lost. You can get back to school, So that's when she took a bold step. I encouraged her to go back to school. And to my surprise, she was like, yes, I didn't want it to be, I didn't wanted to be in school. So you can imagine that what happens to younger girls, it's not their wish. They really want to be in school, but circumstances that surround them is what makes them to be trapped in a situation that affects their life entirely. Yeah, so
I honestly agree with you 100%, through this campaign and our own personal research as well, it is that, those circumstances you touched upon, the way you lived and the conditions of what you had, and also what your family knew. It's not anyone's fault, it's just how things are. And for you to recognize that this doesn't have to be my life, I can, educate myself, and you educate your family to be able to want better for your sister and your community. That is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And another key point, so for me, my mom couldn't really pay my tuition fee for my secondary education.
Yeah.
And literally somebody had to adopt me, not 100%, but in terms of paying my tuition fee. And I see that component as a very important because there are really a lot of brilliant girls out there in the communities, but it takes somebody to rise up for that person. Poverty is a very big problem in Malawi, and girls in the communities are brilliant, but their parents cannot afford to pay a 12,000 tuition fees, and 12,000 is not really a lot of money, but then parents cannot really afford that. And I believe that right now, like for example, that I was 100% supported in terms of my tuition fees in secondary school. And I believe that there are even a lot of people who can actually do the same for girls out there. And I am always like, and that's one thing that motivates me to giving back in the community, that, I was supported, and now I can support as many girls as possible.
Exactly. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that sometimes you just need that person, that organization that sees your potential. And I think that's connecting with you through SheRose. It's really that, having that platform or that avenue where girls can be supported even when their families can't. And just for those watching who are living in the UK, 12,000, guys, is £12. So you can imagine £10 you can probably buy, like, I don't know, a meal here or something. That is someone's future. So all the work that Memory is doing and all the work that SheRose is doing and sponsoring girls really goes a long way. But just to talk about, how you're sort of helping and supporting other girls who might have been who are in situations that you were before, can you tell us a little bit about Foundation for Girls Leadership and what that work is about and how you came to set that up as well?
Well, so I did set up, so prior to that, through my work, I have always been I have always been working with organizations, different organizations, like for me, I was personally attached to a local organization called Girls Empowerment Network. And then from there, I was really connected to various organizations such as Plan International, UNFPA, when we were working on different advocacy projects, like the one that we pushed to change the legal marriage age from 15 to 18. I had to work with different organizations. And then later on, I decided, okay, so as much as my work is really impactful to a lot of girls through different organizations that I work with, I decided to set up a foundation that I can now directly work with the girls myself. So that's when I decided to set up a Foundation for Girls Leadership, so that I am able to attach with the girls, so that I am able to go to the community myself directly to impact in different way in the lives of girls in the communities. So in 2019, that's when I set up the foundation. It's not really long ago. Yeah, so it's quite a baby organization. So through my foundation, from 2019, I have been able to do a lot of work, and I have connected with different funding organizations, like for the Freedom Fund, and right now I'm working on other two projects with Paris. It's some organization in France and some other organization in Geneva. So really through their networking with these organizations, I've been able to attach my work with girls in the communities here in Malawi. And through that, through my foundation, so Foundation for Girls Leadership is basically an organization that looks at uplifting the lives of young girls through leadership. And I chose the component of leadership specifically because as girls, as when we are growing up, it's rare to see a girl standing up and believing that she can be a leader. So I decided through my foundation to break that kind of thinking, that kind of attitude that girls should be able to dare to dream that they can be leaders, that they themselves, they are leaders, that they can be, president. And taking you back to Malawi, like when you look at the parliament, it's 198 parliamentarians, but it's just a few women. And that is because we grow up thinking that we cannot be leaders. So it's very key for the girls when they are growing up to know that they can become anything. They can become presidents, they can become doctors, they can become any kind. They can break the glass ceiling and become everything that they can ever dream of becoming. So we have different components. We look at the component of education. We also have a component of entrepreneurship, which is very important because most of the girls that end up being in marriage is because they do not have the financial muscle to support themselves. So through the work that I'm doing, I am able to connect with the young girls to say, you know what, you can start something. You can build something from the talent that you have. You can make money through your talent. You can make money through making, braids, as simple as making braids, doing hair, knitting. You can make money through all those little talents. So I go back to the communities and make them, realize their potential, bring out the talent that rises deep within them. So we really do quite a lot of things, and also we look at issues of sexual reproductive health and sepsis, which is really critical. Yeah, it is so critical because when you also look at issues of child marriages, girls who end up being in marriage is because they have either been impregnated, and a lot of girls in my community back here in Malawi, girls cannot be able to go to the hospital and say, you know what, I need a condom. It's not easy for the girls to stand up and say, I need to get a contraceptive and all that. So yeah, so I have been working around raising awareness on issues of their sexual health, so that they know they're able to make solid decisions about their life, so that they're able to know when they need to have children and when they need not to have children. Yeah, so quite a lot of issues, and the issues of gender-based violence inclusive.
You guys, you're doing amazing work, and just I think hearing your story on how you started by talking to the girls in your community as a young girl to being able to connect with so many different girls, who need to be hearing the positive within their own lives. It's really, really important. I think, just knowing more about your sexual health, and that is really linked to culture where we do not talk to our girls about the importance of protecting their body and the help that they can receive. I think it's really, really important to have people like you who are doing the work to talk to girls in a way that is normalized. But kind of connecting back to what you're doing in empowering girls, you said in your TED talk that growing up in a community where culture is fully linked and these practices, you said that girls, the things that girls are told, or it was like music. It's like music that they hear every day. The fact that they have to marry, the fact that that they have to support their families. It's like music that is constantly being played to them. How do you, as a young girl, begin to think of what to do next? How did you get to a point where you were like, no, I believe in myself, and I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to educate my family? What are the first steps that you started taking, and how did you empower yourself?
Well, okay, so for back then, I really didn't have a lot of role models that could really talk to me about all that, considering that, in a village where maybe the only role model to you is your female teacher, and they are like. But what really changed for me to literally step up and fit into a very different shoe was because I have always been I've been like I don't know how I can put it, but I've always grown up being a very curious little girl. Yeah, so I have always wanted to explore something different, and for me, apart from the situation that I was raised in, growing up in poverty, but I still had I strong belief that I could be something different. So for me, what really resonated in me was to be different. And that's quite something that a lot of people don't really put up in themselves. And that is because the inner inside of me, like it's more of like it'll come out more of like spiritual, but not really. But I have always believed that there is something bigger within me than what is outside. So having that strong belief that there is something bigger within me really made me to be a stronger person to the outside. Because for me to really come out and challenge the traditional leaders to say, you know what, girls cannot be going into the initiation camps. It had to take guts for someone to stand up and do that. So having that bigger step inside me is what really mattered. And that's what I would like to encourage everyone, you know, like watching, if you're a young girl, believe that something that is bigger within you, let it come out. Because most of us girls, we think that we cannot go far. It's because we don't believe in our inner voices. Because the inner voice will always let you know that you're bigger than what you are. You are better than what you are. So believe that inner strength and let it come out. So that's a very critical step that any person can take out to become really successful and to become really quite different from the normal.
Yeah, I think that's really that's resonated with me as well, because I actually am an artist, and sometimes sometimes people around you can be like, oh, that's great, but what about this? And it's honestly that you really explain to people, but you have to live there, you have to like go through it. And you get to the point where it works out and it makes sense. And I think it's important, as you said, to encourage girls to actually listen to that inner voice and help as well. But you know, having you know challenged traditional leaders, which honestly I can only imagine what that could have been like. What were some of the challenges that you faced, or the consequences to that? You said that you know you ended up having the support from your mum, and you know your family were actually quite behind you. But what were the consequences in the community? You know, did the leaders actually listen? Like, or you know, what were the positives and maybe some of the negative effects of that?
Well, okay. So being an activist is not an easy thing. That's the first thing. It's not an easy thing because no matter what, nobody's going to support you 100%. But even though you like, but then like the few people that are there to support you, you capitalize on those few and to go through and push towards your personal agenda, or if it is an agenda for the group as such. So for me, basically, being at that time, being quite a young person, I was quite most of the times being intimidated, and going to school. And a lot of people and a lot of other women that come to me, who do you think you are? Why would you just stand up and like talk about what you talk? Why are you exposing our traditions? Why are you you're not being royal? I like growing up, I felt that I am not really 100% royal to my tradition, they made me believe that, you know, how like when you're growing up, they make you believe that whatever is happening to you traditionally, it is the right thing, even though most of the things are wrong things.
Yeah.
And sometimes even now, like I remember at some point I actually wrote this other article together with I corresponded with some TNA reporter, and I wrote an article about what are the traditions happening in Malawi, the initiation camps, and the alike. And I was actually personally attacked in my inbox on Facebook. Why are you exposing that this is happening in Malawi? So you can imagine that you think that you're trying to do the right thing, but you are actually being attacked, that you are actually exposing the things that you're not supposed to expose, and you're not being a royal person, and they are like. So that actually was quite an intimidating point to me, because it gave me questions like, should I go on with this? Am I doing the right thing? Or maybe I should just, you know, quit doing this. But for me, quitting didn't really register, because when I saw the rate of positive things that were happening, like for example, when I stood up and I shared my personal story, I shared my a lot of things that is happening to Malawi, and when I saw international donors stepping up for Malawi, when I spoke at the CSW Commission on Status of Women in 2015, and through that they said they actually, okay, so right now Malawi is a priority country to target to end child marriage, and a lot of funding came into Malawi. That's when I started, oh, you know what, you know, speaking out is good, you know. When we share the challenges that are happening in Malawi, a lot of international communities stepped in. So even though I made a lot of challenges back here in Malawi, I still continue to speak on behalf of girls. So yeah.
Someone said, thank you so much for your bravery. I'm just seeing these messages. So I've got two questions. The next question is actually two questions. One is, you speak about all these international connections you made. I would really, I'm curious to know how you ended up kind of being placed on platforms as such. And the other question is around some of the traditional practices that we have at home in Malawi. And I think, I don't know if you spoke about how your sister went through it in your TED Talk.
Oh, okay. So let me start with that. So basically, in Malawi, like a lot of things, of course, are changing right now through different organizations that are working on issues of traditional practices and the alike. But we still have some traditions in Malawi where when a girl child reaches puberty stage, she's supposed to go to the initiation camp. And at the initiation camps, it's more of a rite of passage to say that now you are no longer a child, you are now an adult. So at the initiation camp, there are a lot of things that actually happen. And well, from what I heard from the girls, because from my sister's experience, so when she reached puberty stage, she went to the initiation camp. And what a lot of girls are taught at the initiation camp is that you must find, now that you're grown up, you must find a man who can sexually cleanse you to remove you from being a child to now going into an adult. And in some extreme instances, they actually bring a man from the community who goes to the camp and rapes all the girls. So that's now quite challenging. You find that a lot of girls end up being pregnant, and a lot of girls, you never know what if the person was HIV infected. It means all the girls at the camp will actually be infected with HIV and AIDS. And that was the norm that had been going around for a lot of ages. And so for me, that's when I saw that my younger sister went through that, and I said I can't go, you know. I told myself there is no way I can go to that kind of a place that tells the girls that you have to go have sex with someone and for you to be sexually cleansed. So there are a lot of things that actually things that girls that girls go through. And I really decided to choose a very different path. And when I said no, everybody was shocked because they're not supposed to say no, you know. So that was actually the biggest turning point for me. And I started fighting for the girls because I didn't want any girl to go through that. I am an advocate that says if your child has reached a puberty stage, why can't you, as a parent, talk to the child? What are the do's and what are the don'ts? So it's all about a parent taking their role in ensuring that their girls are on the right path. It's about the parent taking the responsibilities of making sure that they talk to the girls about their sexual health, about growing up and stuff, about, let's say, if like in future, if they're children, it's about telling them that in future one day you'll be married and you don't have to be married at the age of 10, at the age of 11, and they are like. So I have a greater feeling that it's an African culture that a lot of parents really don't find time to talk to their parents, and I want to break that kind of generation that hide behind culture to make sure to cut off their daughters' dreams. So yeah, so really my activism really sprang from that kind of situation that I grew up in, and I have seen a lot of girls going through that, and I really didn't want to see girls going through that. And from this, that's when I really gained an international platform where I was able to speak out on behalf of girls in Malawi, to be able to speak at the United General Assembly, and yeah, so really it resonated from that, and that's when I really found a lot of opportunities and to speak on different platforms.
It's almost as if, you know, you are setting an example because you've almost lived some of the experiences that the girls have, and it is about having that presence and that visibility. And you know, in your TED talk, you also spoke about, you know, how the bill had been passed on child marriages or marriages in general from the age of 16 to 18. Has any of, you know, since the bill has passed, have you seen any changes in sort of the more traditional practices and more practical changes being done, for example, with schools or anything like that? Have you felt anything?
Well, I really felt the change. My imagination was pretty wrong because when the law passed from changing the legal marriage age from 16 to 18, for me I thought like immediately there will be no longer child marriages. Yeah, I really had it wrong, you know, that childish kind of thinking. I didn't know that it would take a lot beyond that. Yeah, it really takes a lot of things. I didn't really consider that, you know, it also has to do with issues of attitude from people, and changing attitudes is really a process. It's a very gradual process that can actually be taken. So I have seen a lot of changes because I can't be specific in terms of statistics, but right now, by then I think child marriage rate in Malawi was actually at 50. I can't really remember, but then now child marriage now is at 42. So we have made a milestone because I believe that saving one girl is a lot. um, because that one girl would change a lot of things around her. She first of all, it's a personal transformation in the first place, and then from there, she changes her family, she changes her community. So it's really a beautiful circle when one girl child is saved from child marriages. So I have seen a lot of changes in Malawi, and I have seen a lot of international community stepping up for the girl child in Malawi, and local organizations working in the communities. And I have seen the government being really supportive through the Ministry of Gender. A lot of and Malawi from the past 2 years has been in a lot of platforms where now communities in Africa we're learning from Malawi how they have done it to reduce child marriage rate. So I would say yes, things are working and things are changing for Malawi, but there is more that can be done, because right now what the biggest problem that we are facing in Malawi is okay, so these child marriages, for example, a lot of traditional leaders are now stepping up for the girl child. I will give an example of Chief Kachindamoto. She's now a big name in Malawi, and she has terminated over 2,000 child marriages. And for me, and even if for my wake as well, it has been very much challenging after withdrawing these children from marriage. Then so what? Because if you take them back into the family, they have married them off and they don't want them anymore. And then you take them back to the parents who chased them from to go to get married. So it becomes really challenging to to the so-called kind of a question, because there is more that can be done. We need to provide a platform for these girls. We need to empower them economically so that they get back to school. We need to provide them with tuition fees and the little necessities that their parents couldn't afford to give them, like to bridge a gap that made their parents force them into marriage. So there is a lot of work that organizations have to do. I would like to urge the organizations that are watching right now to really provide an economic empowerment essential for the girls out there. There is a lot of work that can be done. They need an economic boost, like yeah, so village savings for the girls. Works like those can really be supportive for the girls out there. So there is a lot that has to be done, and so yeah, a lot has to be done, and also issues of the implementation of the law. It's quite a challenge because you know how, like, it's different from having a law on paper and translating the law into action. Yeah. So I hear that Malawi, like it's a norm that we have very good, laws. We have really good agendas and stuff, but translating those into action, it's really a problem. But I think we can do better. Like now, we have a chance. We are alive. So therefore, I believe that we have been given a chance to make things better for the girls. So I am urging.
Oh, I don't know if you can see me, Memory. I think we're just having trouble with connection. But as we wait, I think I agree with everything that she's been saying so far, in that, education, there's so many layers to these issues where, we need to educate our communities and our parents and our traditional leaders. We need to look at the law and, how it's being implemented both at home and internationally. So I think Memory's just left for a second, but she should be back once she gets her connection. But as well as that, we need to make sure that the girls are at the forefront of everything. So the work that we've been doing, the work that SheRose has been working on in terms of just getting as many sponsorships, doing workshops directly with the girls, and also, getting the visibility and engagement in order to reach the right platforms is really, really important. I've seen that you guys have been having conversations in the chat. Zoe said, I'd be interested to hear if there are any measures taken to educate boys and men on how to appropriately treat and empower young girls and women. It's really, really interesting. And then Pa says, how much as a lot of donor support is pumped into girls' empowerment and eradication of negative social cultural norms, the projects are short-lived and they phase out before the actual change is made. And I think this is a really, really important point, because it's kind of what Memory alluded to, in that sometimes we push for so much change, and sometimes we push for, empowerment, and what does this look like? If we do this, we'll get this result. But what happens after? What happens when we are not able to guide those girls, but they need to start guiding themselves? So it's really important to create sustainable plans where, when we do workshops or when we do something, it's for the long-term empowerment. And I think Memory touched on it, in that in her work with Foundation for Girls, it's about setting them up so that if they do have a skill, a business, an idea, they can carry that on themselves and therefore make a change in their own lives. So that's a really good point. There is a need to fight negative norms in long-lived projects. I'm sure change can be made. We just need patience, because changing people's mindset takes time. I agree with that as well, because you have to remember that a lot of the times we have been conditioned to think a certain way or have a certain understanding of our own lives. So as I was saying about, to Memory, that she had to educate her parents and her family, her mum and her family. And that is actually a great first step, because it's not her mother's fault that she was unable to have an understanding of what life could be, or what opportunities her daughters could have. So, patience and practical, active change is really, really key. And I think we can all do it from wherever we are. And for us, for SheRose, we obviously are based in the UK and in Malawi. So it's about those practical steps, like what can we do when internationally, when, we have COVID-19 and everything. On top of that, what can we do when we are on the ground? What practical things? How can we be visible to people who need to be who need us to be seen to them, in other avenues other than social media? So it's really, really important. And challenging parents isn't easy. Oh my gosh, you said it. You have said it. And I think, it's about stepping outside of ourselves. And I asked a question earlier about how do you, like, what do you do? Like, what's that first step of you knowing that you're fighting for something that is important and right? And how do you begin to take those first steps? Like, what's the first thing you do? And it's honestly like about following your gut. And I can only say it, but you have to like take the steps yourself. No one can do it for you. And challenging parents can be the first step to you actually getting connected with them in a different way. You're trusting that they will listen to you, and you're putting yourself out there, and you're being bare. And if you can do that in your own home, it's so much more powerful when you're doing it outside of your own home and your own space. So Zoe says, I'm sorry I have to go, but thank you so much for hosting, and it's been extremely inspirational for both of us. I think Memory is amazing. Like, all the work she's doing is honestly, it takes one person to change so many lives, and every little helps. And if we all contribute a little collectively, we'll make a huge impact. Yes, well said, well said. Great. I'm not sure how if you guys had any other questions, which we could probably share. But in terms of just getting connected with Memory, as you saw, she came in through her Instagram. So if you guys would like to follow her, I think that would be great if you wanted to see more of her work and all the things that she's up to. She's also got Twitter, which you guys can follow, and hopefully we'll be able to share more of that information. Just to share a little bit about what we've been up to so far. So as you know, it's Black History Month, and we recently celebrated, I always get this wrong, International Day of the Girl Child, got it right, a few days ago. So if you guys haven't seen the resources that we've created on just educating ourselves on child marriages, girls' rights, and the systems that some of the girls are operating in, please do go to our website. Under events, you should be able to find and access those resources. Do join in with our Fight for Her campaign, and so many people have shared their thoughts, their words, powerful words that we will continue to share. Today is International Rural Women's Day too. Woo! Thank you so much. We will share more on that today. Yes, if you haven't already shared a few words for the month's campaign, please do share. Email us, email us, and DM us. We're always active. I think Memory's back. We're always active, but if you have any questions, we've got a few questions left, and about 15 minutes. So if you've got any questions regarding anything
oh, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
I've just been looking through some of the questions, and I think maybe I should ask one of the questions that was asked before we move on. So Zoe, who's not actually here, but yeah, Zoe wanted to know, are there measures taken to educate boys or men on how to appropriately treat and empower young girls and women?
Absolutely. So for the club, okay, so the other thing that I forgot, for example, the company that we have for Foundation for Girls Leadership, we have clubs in schools. So we have girl clubs in schools, and we also have the boys clubs.
Okay.
So yeah, so basically they sometimes combine. It depends on what kind of things that they want to talk about. If they want to have just a girl space, it's just a girl thing, and then they want to have a boys space, it's a boys thing. Yeah, so sometimes, and then later on it's an all issue, and then they combine. So in these clubs, in the boys clubs, we actually have a different component where now we try to teach the boys how they can be a man. So we try to talk about issues of positive masculinity, on what does being a man mean, and they tell us how they define themselves being a man, and then obviously from the start point they talk about how being a man, I'm the head of the family, I'm supposed to guide what the family has to do and all that, and for being a man, ABCD, and then we take them little by little, trying to change their mindset about you can still be a man and not being abusive, not being too controlling, and they are like, so we have that kind of component. And in Malawi, I'm happy to also have worked, not really directly, but there is brother to brother is something that was brother to brother initiative. It was something that was it's an initiative that was started by my lecturer, Dr. Zinda Washisiza. It's quite an impressive thing. They also try to define about gender, masculinity. What is it? What defines a man? So Oh, so they are there. They are so it's quite great to see an organization that directly works with the boys, challenging the status quo about being a man, and it's so great to see young boys now looking at themselves differently. That you can be a man, but still more respect girls. You can be a man. It doesn't take away your manhood if you don't beat a girl. It doesn't take away your manhood if you stand up for girls' rights, for example. So there are a lot of things that we are trying to change the mindset of boys, and I like it that we are doing it to the boys in schools. So when they're growing up, it will grow in them. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's honestly that normalizing of certain conversations, isn't it? We spoke about, contraception and, sexual health for girls, but it's really important that, toxic masculinity really exists and it's conditioned. It's not something that, boys grow up with and they naturally have it, but it's about unlearning those things that we understand what being a man is or being a woman is. And it's really important to work on both sides, because when you marry the two in the middle, it really creates a society that is that looks out for each other. Boys are activists for girls' rights as well, and I think that's important. So I've got a big question next, which is, we've spoken a lot about the deep-rooted consequences of our cultural understandings. How do we begin to unpack culture, and how do we begin to outline that some of these things and some of these practices might need to leave them where they started, and we might need to start creating new practices that are positively impactful and that empower girls and boys in supporting girls? How do we begin to unpack culture?
Well, that's a very big question, and culture has always been really challenging. And I would like to say, culture on its own, it's a beautiful thing. Culture on its own, it's a beautiful thing. But then the way how we are socialized in a community, we are socialized in a way that it's only a certain member of a society who benefits more, and that's how patriarchy is all about. It's all about power over, and then demeaning the other gender. So to unpack that, for me, I would say that the first step is actually to work with the traditional leaders. I would say that traditional leaders, like those people, those guys, they bring out a Raja component, and they are very key in transforming the little things that happen in the communities. And I would say it's very much possible to actually change some of the traditions that actually affect the girl child. For example, I would say the little things that I have seen change in Malawi, like for my community. It was the first community to come up with bylaws to actually ban the initiation camp. So when you see that such a thing changed, then you begin to believe that, culture can be changed. And I'll get back to the way of dressing. It's as simple as the way how there have been evolution in terms of what we have been dressing, what we have been eating, what our forefathers were eating is not what we have been eating. So if we have been able to adapt in that kind of change, it means that it is possible for actually this generation to change some of the things that are happening right now. And the biggest way of changing that thing is education. Education is very important. It's very key that if we go into the communities, if we continue educating a girl child, first of all, to stand up for herself, it's very critical that a girl child herself, she has to be bold enough to challenge the traditions, to say no. if something is happening to her and she's able to say no, that's a very big step.
That's a big
And
step, yeah.
if she's able to say no, the communities, of course, they'll be surprised, like, why is she saying no? But just the moment that they're questioning that, it means something is happening,
It's a pivotal
something is
moment.
changing. Yeah, so we need to continuously educate our girls, and we continuously need to empower our girls. And at the center of it all, we still need to work with the traditional leaders. And by working with the traditional leaders, it's not just opposing one traditional leader, but it's all about scaling up. For example, if in Malawi, for example, if T.A. Kashindamoto is a biggest example, we need to scale up. How we need to find ways. How did she come up with that? How did she? How was she empowered for her to stand up for the girls? So we need to outscale, and for the organizations to work with more other traditional leaders and not just one traditional leader.
That is so powerful,
Yeah.
and I 100% agree. Like you can't do anything from the outside. It has to be from the inside, from the people
From the
that it
inside.
directly affects. Yeah. We've got 5 minutes, and I know that Instagram really cuts off conversations at an hour. But I'm really enjoying this conversation, and people have been commenting. So I'll just quickly read before we wrap up. Ali Lucy one says, culture, as you said, has consequences. Education is important, which you mentioned. People have to learn there are more than one ways to live in a society and uphold values. I 100% agree. And she said, this is a good conversation. So thank you, Memory, for everything that you shared. And someone else says, people forget that our ancestors wore next to nothing, and now you get harassed for wearing short clothes. And this is what you were saying about, adapting and sort of changing our understanding of ourselves and, our ancestors and our history. Does anyone have a quick question? We've got a few minutes. If not, anyone? I think if not, then I would just like to say a massive thank you for giving us the time and sharing everything that you've shared. Your knowledge and your energy is actually it's easy to get to soak in that positive energy. And honestly, that the work you're doing is amazing, and we hope to continue to work closely with you. And keep connecting and keep doing more work. Is there anything that you would like to share or say before we come off, or share maybe how people can get in touch with you or access more information around the work that you're doing?
Oh, well, thank you so much, SheRose, for really being for inviting me to be a part of this today. And it's really great that this month being we are celebrating a girl child everywhere in the world. Would like just to encourage all the girls to really believe in themselves. And I always say that your dream is never too small. The little thing that you think, oh, it can't really make a meaningful difference, just know that it's really going to be impactful. Continue dreaming and continue translating your dreams into action, and believe in yourself that you can be anything that you ever dream. And let's continue working towards accelerating their sustainable development goals, and let's leave no one behind. Let every girl be educated. Let's make sure that every girl everywhere is empowered and is in school.
Amazing, powerful words. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Memory. Have a good evening. Take some time to rest. I know you probably had dinner, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
No worries.